Hey guys, what's up? We have zombies coming, and with zombies comes scary stuff, and a new keyword. So I'm really excited for October. I kind of skipped last season in terms of doing a card review because I didn't really see much going on, or the month before. So I'm really excited for this month. I'm kind of hopeful. So at least I think that the art style and the idea of zombies and stuff is really cool. So let's talk about it. I'm really excited. First off, we have to talk about the zombie horde mechanic. So, whenever you see a card that says horde, the first one is going to summon this, zombie horde token at a different location than where you played that first horde card. So, like if I play this card that says horde on the left, and then the zombie horde can first summon on the middle or right lane, and if this horde card says horde +2. The initial one's going to go from 00 to 02, and then every single subsequent one is going to be go from 2 power to 4 power, 4 power to 6 power on that same zombie horde. Um, Now, because like this zombie horde has no text, so it's going to get absolutely destroyed by Shadow King since it starts at 0 power. It gets killed by Cobra, which is kind of funny. If you haven't summoned one by the time Stardust is on the field, then you can't summon it with Stardust. Shang-Chi absolutely destroys you. So like you can't really put all your eggs into the zombie horde basket without expecting to just get tech W'd. So just be aware of that when you're thinking about playing a zombie deck. Um, Here's where we can kind of abuse zombie hordes. If there's multiple hordes on the board, then the horde buffs will buff both hordes. That being said, if you have a zombie horde that's unrevealed for whatever reason, um, your horde stuff will still buff that horde instead of summoning a new horde, if that makes any sense. Um, and yeah, so this is just like a kind of seasonal thing for October, so we're probably not going to get any more horde cards probably until next October, if we even do get any horde cards next October. So this is kind of like we're hoping that these kind of work right now, and if they don't, then they're kind of screwed. At least like the idea of like putting all these horde cards together is kind of screwed, right? What's kind of interesting is that there's only one real card that wants you to put all the zombie horde cards into a deck. So really, for the most part, you don't have to do that. And so yeah, we'll talk about that soon, right? So let's talk about the big hitter, which is Zombie Scarlet Witch. So it's a 3/2 that says after you play a card, hero horde +2. So it's literally just a 3/2 version of Angela, but instead of buffing herself, she's buffing the zombie horde in another lane. So that's kind of interesting because you can continue to fill up that lane. You can play bounce cards like Kitty Pryde or movers like Jeff, stuff like that. And that horde will go to the other lane. So you can kind of commit to that Scarlet Witch lane and also have the horde win the other lane. So that's pretty interesting. Obviously, 3/2 is a lot worse than 2/0 Angela was, if we're going to compare like that. But Zombie Scarlet Witch has a lot of pretty interesting synergies. She is competing at that 3 cost slot with stuff like Elsa and Hope. That also kind of gives you some advantages that like you can plan around your game plan being like, hey, I'm gonna play a 3 drop that wants me to fill out that location, and so you can kind of plan around that on top of your Hope and your Elsa as well, right? Just as an idea. Couple ways that you can abuse Zombie Scarlet Witch is you could just literally have a Strange Supreme on another location, and then like every turn you just play a Kitty Pryde into your Scarlet Witch lane, and your Strange Supreme will literally just eat the horde, get the bonus for emerging every single turn, and so that's a pretty neat 1-2 punch there as well. And then also we have Zombie Giant Man, who's a 5/3 that says on reveal horde +1, then this gains power equal to your zombie horde. So obviously the idea is, and we'll talk about this later, or what you'll notice later, is that Zombie Scarlet Witch is only the only real card that gets the zombie horde to be really like more than like 5 power, really. Um, and so I think that the idea, obviously, if you're running Giant Man, you definitely have to be running Scarlet Witch. And the cool idea that you can do is like you can Pile onto the Scarlet Witch lane, get a huge horde. Then you, on the other empty lane, you can play Zombie Giant Man plus like Kitty Pryde or whatever one drop on the last turn, and that's actually pretty decent. As a curve, the only issue that I really don't like, and I really, really don't like this with Giant Man, is first off, if you get teched by like a Shadow King or a Shang-Chi or whatever, you're screwed. The Giant Man gets totally screwed, assuming that they reveal first. And then also, if you don't draw Scarlet Witch, like I said, the other cards don't really give you big hordes. So it's like, let's just say we have a 5-power horde, because I drew all the other horde cards, but not this one. Then it's a 6-power horde and the 3 already on Giant Man. So I literally have a 5/9 that gave my other horde +1. Which is like decent, but it's not great, and that's also assuming that I drew all the other horde cards. So it's really, really dependent on Scarlet Witch. It's really, really dependent on you not getting teched. So I'm not really hopeful for Giant Man too much outside of that. But I do think that Zombie Scarlet Witch has some applications in decks that want to use that kind of Angela, Elsa, Hope Summers kind of style, and that has some kind of ideas. And I'm definitely going to talk about that more later at the end of this. Where I wanted to kind of just have a full-on zombie deck, and also like some ideas for like non-full committal zombie decks as well. So I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But yeah, for now I gave a Zombie Giant Man 1 star and Zombie Scarlet Witch 3 stars. On to Zombie Sentry, a 3/4. This says on reveal horde +1 for each of your cards at the right location. This guy sucks. He gets 1 star. Yeah. I mean, I look at this guy, so he wants me to fill out my right lane. Let's just say I have 3 cards in my right lane, though. That's already a pretty big committal. I can't play this on turn 3 without him just kind of sucking. He's like a 3/5 on turn 3, right? Mediocre. If I play him like turn 5 or 6 and I have 3 cards in the right location, he's only a 3/7. At best, he's a 3/8 if I have 4 cards in the right location. That's not that good, right? Waiting like you could bloody play Sage and just automatically get like an 8 half the time. Not to mention you kind of splitting the power when you don't always want to. So I think that there's a lot of weaknesses that Zombie Sentry has. And obviously the idea is that like you play your Scarlet Witch on the right location and you start filling it out. And then like you play your Kitty Pride in there and you play your Zombie Sentry, and then wow, Zombie Sentry's a 3/8. And that's the whole idea. But like I don't feel like that's good enough, and I would rather just play Sage or something like that. It strikes me as like a Wolfsbane that isn't in that lane specifically, but is still kind of mediocre. So yeah, I really don't like it. The Hunger is a skill, a 1-cost skill, that reads on reveal horde +3. So it's literally just a 1/3 that doesn't take up a board slot. And then obviously that horde goes into a different location than where you play the Hunger. So I think that's kind of interesting. I gave it 2 stars. Obviously 1/3 doesn't really make the cut, but it is a skill that you can just main deck, which is pretty nice for stuff like Werewolf by Night. It's great for Zombie Scarlet Witch because, you know, you get to just play it in that lane, get the Scarlet Witch proc, and then you get to retain that board slot for the next turn. So I think that that's pretty neat and a great synergy for justifying running the Hunger with Zombie Scarlet Witch. But outside of that, it's not great. So I just gave it 2 stars. It's not much to talk about, but it's just a decent support card, especially if you want to do this Zombie Scarlet Witch Giant Man idea. And then here we have like a really actual standalone card alongside Zombie Scarlet Witch. It's a Zombie Mr. Fantastic. He's a 2/2 that reads on reveal horde +2. Activate, give 4 of your created cards +1 power. So he's kind of like a Mr. Okay, Mr. Sinister if the other 2 power card went into the other location. But really, if you play this on any turn but turn 6, it's like a 2/5 at minimum in stats. And obviously, if you get the full value out of the activate, then it's really like a 2/8. So that's actually pretty useful. And so outside of just regular like all-in zombie horde decks, this is actually pretty great in just like literally any Mockingbird deck. Where you would expect to get 4 created cards. Not to mention that horde will proc discount on your Mockingbird, which is great. So I think that this card's actually really interesting. You give it 4 stars. I feel like any deck that you're running Mockingbird in, you would consider running Zombie Mr. Fantastic. Like I said, he's a 2/8. If you play something like Mysteria, you can play Thanos, you can play Arishem, you can play what else? Sam Wilson, stuff like that. That works pretty well with this. So I think that there's a lot of options here. And I really like that not only is this working well with the cards that you already run with Mockingbird, but he's also producing something on the board that will buff your Mockingbird as well, or will discount your Mockingbird as well. So great Mockingbird card. And I like that this is actually a card that doesn't rely on all the other Horde cards working. So yeah. Um, Great, that's all Horde cards that we have. So let's kind of talk about destroy cards that are coming now. We have Headpool. He's a 1/1 that reads, when this is destroyed, return it to your hand, then give all cards in hand +1 power. So I'm going to give this guy 3 stars. He seems like a really instant shoe-in for any of your destroy deck, like your typical destroy decks, like Deadpool, Wolverine, that kind of idea, where you're literally just, obviously this works really well with Deadpool. If you go Deadpool, Headpool, whatever, that's really good. You can have Moira X to get more cards in your hand and then buff them all as well, which is pretty neat. And then obviously, you can think about doing some kind of Nova Headpool Killmonger thing. But I really don't see that working out outside of literally just regular destroy. But it's something that a deck could consider if they already wanted to do something like Nova and like maybe like Brood and stuff like that, and Sebastian Shaw, stuff like that, that maybe they do like a Nova Headpool Killmonger package, but I really doubt that. But yeah, instant shoe-in for Destroy. He regens, so you keep getting him back, and he works spectacularly with Deadpool. I don't think this is the greatest card in Destroy by any means, but it works pretty decently, so I think that that's where I could slot in. That's why I give it 3 stars. Here's an interesting one, Zombie Captain Marvel. She's a 4/4 that reads, activate, destroy your other cards here to get +3 power for each, and move to a location you're losing. So I think that this card is really cool for some kind of Galactus Nimrod stuff. What you can do is you can play Zombie Captain Marvel. You can play your Nimrod on 5, and then so you have a Tuma and Zombie Captain Marvel as like some presets for your Nimrod to get immediately destroyed on turn 5. And then she moves out of the lane, so you can literally play your Galactus in that lane. And get the Nimrods back into that lane. So I think that that's pretty interesting. Obviously, that depends on your Galactus winning that lane, but that was just a pretty interesting idea that I had for Nimrod. It's really nice that she gives that added consistency for a turn 4 like preset destroy alongside Atuma. Airwalker can pull her as well as Atuma and stuff like that as well if you want to do some kind of shenanigans with some kind of destroy deck where you want to set that up. It's really just a weird card, because it's not really like Venom where you want to be hitting these big things. It's more like Carnage where you want to hit the small things. And it goes out of the lane. So, obviously you don't really want to do like Winter Soldier Bucky Barnes because like you're gonna leave that lane. So obviously the idea is that you kind of just you ditch that lane. If you play this on turn 4 in a location that you don't think that you're gonna win. Um, and you really just kind of ditch that lane and go to another lane, kind of similar to Hellion. So I think that there's applications to this card. It's really strange. I don't think that this goes into typical destroy because it's a 4 cost activate. So you really on turn 5, it's like it's only turn 5 that you're destroying stuff. Unless you want to ditch the lane on 6, it's just really strange. I don't think that I just think it's too expensive, too slow for regular destroy. But it's an option, and so I think that there's a lot of stuff you can cook with this, and I really, really am interested in seeing what people do. But yeah, the obvious synergy for me is Nimrod, so yeah, I give it 3 stars. Um, okay, let's talk about discard stuff. I kind of wanted to put these two together because I don't see you running, at least I don't see you running Colonel America without Power Man. Or I should say, I kind of see you running these two together. So this is really for a more, just to preface this, Bullseye is more like thoughtful about what they want to discard, and they just kind of want to do it all in one go with MODOK and Bullseye. Meanwhile, this really just wants you to kind of be aggressive with your discards and get one in every turn. So Zombie Power Man, he's a 2/4 that reads end of turn. If you're winning here, discard the leftmost card from your hand. And then Colonel America is a 3/3 that says ongoing. Your other cards here have +1 power for each turn you discarded a card. So, like I said, this really wants you to be kind of aggressive in that discarding. So, like, you want to be playing stuff like a Corvus Glaive that you can just tempo out on turn 3. You want to be playing your Colleen Wing, your Blade, like as soon as you get it. That way you're getting that proc each turn. Zombie Power Man is giving you proc each turn if he's winning the lane. And it's kind of weird that text that he has to be winning there. Because your opponent can just like either they can just keep letting you discard if they don't care, or they can play into that lane and try to contest you to stop you from discarding, which is kind of frustrating if you're on the discard player side, that you can kind of be at the mercy of your opponent sometimes. Granted, a 2/4 is pretty good stats for making sure that you win that and get prio. Um, Obviously, so he discards the leftmost card from your hand, so you can do some Agatha shenanigans. But the awkward part is that after you discard the Agatha, your opponent can just let him keep winning the lane and just keep discarding your own cards. So maybe that's not the greatest application. But literally what I'm just thinking is like a traditional discard where you're running Dracula, you're running like all these, literally every single card that procs off of a discard. Conchu is pretty good for like if you discard Colonel America and res it back with Conchu, that's actually pretty big surprise stats that you can do. And then obviously you just want every card in your deck that like does not leave your hand if you discard it. So like Swarm, Apocalypse, stuff like that. You definitely want to be running. So yeah, this definitely isn't like a bullseye card. It's not like some deck that revolves around just Modoc or something like that. It's literally just going to be an aggressive kind of discard idea. And the other part that's a little bit frustrating is Colonel America really wants you to have 3 other cards at that location. So you really have to kind of overcommit almost. Obviously swarms are great for that. You can just play out your bitty swarms. So I think that there's a chance here. I think that this could kind of revive the old, just like a lot of discards, and that deck is already good. So I think that there's a chance for this, and that this is actually pretty interesting. So yeah, Zombie Powerman 2 stars, just because he might backfire sometimes. I think Colonel America is really just a lane winner. Sometimes, especially with Swarm, if you can get that. So yeah, I give him 3 stars. And yeah, here's the weirdest card of the season. That's probably the worst. Zombie Galacti. He's a 7/4. Amazing. That reads start of game, choose 6 other cards in your deck, and then on reveal, transform those cards into copies of this. So let's just kind of talk about like what do you want to do with this card? Obviously you need to have a way that you can play this out because it's 7 cost without any cost discounting attached to him. So obviously you need some kind of energy ramp or just cost manipulation, anything like that. You don't really want to be playing this earlier than turn 6 because if you have like a useful card in your hand, it's going to turn into and it's tagged with the Zombie Galacti, then it's going to get turned into a Zombie Galacti and be useless on turn 6. So you really just want this to be like a surprise on turn 6. I think your opponent will know if cards are marked. But really, my biggest issue is that you can build your whole deck for this, and you can just not draw it, and then you lose. So you have to keep that in mind when you're deck building for this. So obviously, we're going to talk about cost manipulation stuff like Pixie, Wiccan, and then we also want to buff the Galacti because the other cards are going to turn into copies of it. So if you like Shuri the Galacti, then everything else is going to become a 7/8, right? So that's a lot more threatening than a 4 power is. So something like Elsa Bloodstone, which already encourages you to play small stuff. Obviously, like you don't want to be transforming your big cards, so you want to be playing like smaller stated things um, that don't have good effects like Iron Man. So that like really even narrows down the limitations that you have even further. But yeah, you can play something like Elsa Bloodstone that already encourages those small guys and can buff your Galacti on the last turn to 7/6. You want to play something like Surge is perfect. That means you got a 6 cost 5 power Galacti, which is a lot more usable and threatening as well. So there's stuff that you can do, but it just really off-puts me that like you can't plan around which cards get transformed, so you can't have any big cards. And then if you don't draw the Galacti, then like what are you doing with your deck? It's hard to find other reasons to run this. I mean, the best thing I can think of is like some Mysterio stuff, where you buff the Mysterio as well. Um, but yeah, it just it feels really strange. It's 7-4. It's just a lot of work to have to get that energy ramp, to have to get those buffs. But yeah, obviously, I think Mysterio is like really the only place some kind of Mysterio Elsa deck might find a way, and that's probably something that I'll build. But I don't expect this card to be good, and if it is good, I'm gonna hate it as well. So I hope it doesn't get buffed either. But yeah, let's talk about zombie decks because I really want this to work. I'm just full disclosure, I do not think that a full zombie deck will be good. At least I should say a full horde deck will be good. But yeah, let's talk about if I were to run one, what would I be doing? So I've got the Hunger, Kitty Pride, Hydra Bob, Zombie Mr. Fantastic, Merlin, Mysterio, Zombie Scarlet Witch, Elsa Bloodstone, Hope Summers, Zombie Sentry, Zombie Giant Man, and Sasquatch. And so yeah, I just kind of like I think that Mysterio is just really going to be a big card this month. Um, I think that you just want to be playing some kind of deck where you're just filling out your space using Elsa Bloodstone, Hope Summers, Zombie Scarlet Witch as the idea, and then you have the Hunger, you have Merlin skills, you have Kitty Pride, even Hydra Bob that all let you fill out those lanes. Play onto the Hope Elsa Zombie Witch lanes. And then you have your sentry as well, and the idea is that you go Zombie Giant Man, or sorry, Kitty Pride into Zombie Giant Man on 6, or you do some Mysterio stuff and play some Sasquatch on turn 6. I think that this has some hope, but like I just really hate the idea that you can get teched and really just invalidate your Giant Man, or you can not draw a Zombie Scarlet Witch, and then half of the reason that you played this deck is gone, and half of these zombie cards are bad. I really eat. I don't think Zombie Sentry is going to be good enough for this, even if this becomes a deck. But I just wanted to stuff everything in, just say that I did. Um, Now here's what I think that the actual good better application is that you obviously there's a Strange Supreme stuff, and obviously that clashes with Zombie Giant Man, so you wouldn't want to run the two together. But you could do that, and then also you can do bounce stuff with Toxin and Beast. And if you recall what I was talking about earlier, is that if you have two hordes on the board at the same time, they both buff at the same time when you play a horde card. So the idea is you go Zombie Scarlet Witch, you get a horde out, and then you bounce that zombie horde. The next turn you play out your zombie horde. You don't do any horde stuff that turn, and then the next turn, or sorry, oh god, sorry. You bounce your zombie horde. Um, you play something onto your zombie Scarlet Witch, get a new horde because there's no horde on the board now that you bounced your original. And then you play your old horde onto the board, which is 0 cost, by the way. And then you just like chug onto that zombie Scarlet Witch lane, and you're getting like +4 boosts. And you can split into 2 lanes with that as well. So I think that that has a lot of promise. So something like Falcon and Beast and Toxin. Um, could be pretty interesting for abusing the horde mechanic. But yeah, once again, Shadow King is probably just gonna like run amok while people are trying to enjoy building their sandcastles with zombies. So obviously that's my problem with it. But we can hope for the best. I think that there's going to be something here. I at least think that Zombie Scarlet Witch has a lot of potential. I think Zombie Mr. Fantastic has a lot of potential. And I think that yeah, I think that this is going to be some pretty cool stuff. I love that this season they in the data. If you look at the data mines, they have kind of sets for these zombie cards. So there's like Ryan Gonzalez for all these cards. There's a Pandart that might be coming later down the line. There's a Moon Colony. There's a whatever this new Ivan Foman, I think he's the artist of the month. So I think that there's a lot of stuff and it's pretty cool. So I like what they're doing here. It's like a good direction for Marvel Snap is at least having like these kind of sets where you can try and run all these cards together and have the same art style, and I think that's really cool. So I at least want to give kudos for that. Like I said, I'm really excited for zombies. I'm not fully sure how impactful this season will be, but I think at least that Zombie Scarlet Witch is going to have some potential, and that these Mockingbird Mysterio decks will get good, and some discard decks will get good. So yeah, thanks guys for listening to what I had to say. Appreciate you all. we have Spider-Verse season coming in November, so we'll talk about that later down the line. But thanks for listening, and I really appreciate you guys. So thanks. Bye bye.